Hello, my name is Don Talbot, and we're going to go ahead and bait this super bait up today. And one of the ways that we do that for fishing for salmon on the Columbia River is we use a lot of tuna fish. And the Star Kiss Chunk Light packed in vegetable oil. What I do is I separate the oil from the tuna fish, and the reason why we do that is because we have a scent pad in the super bait. We'll get to that in a minute. And you just separate it as much as you can. You don't have to do all the oil out of it, but squeeze it pretty good, just like that. And then once you get this lid here, you just force it back up, and your tuna becomes a lot drier this way. That way you can go ahead and stick your tuna into a Tupperware, and it's a lot easier to form when it goes into the super bait. So I'll take all the tuna out that has all the oil removed and get ready to put it inside the super bait. Of course, take a lot of paper towels with you to wipe your hands off. You need to do that. What you do to undo the super bait is undo the rubber in the back of it. Remove the sponge, which is right here. Stick the sponge into the oil. Let it soak up really nice. If you want to, you can add other scent to it, like Procure is one of the ones that I use. I use Salmon Slammer. You can use Smelly Jelly. You can use any of that type of scent in the tuna oil, and it'll actually enhance the flavor. I use a little extra garlic in mine. Then I take this tuna fish and I pack it. I mold it right inside this super bait right here. It's really easy. In order to do this with a plug, you have to wrap the bait onto the plug, and you can't use anything that's this soft. Okay, now that's easy and not as messy. And I take the sponge, and I take that sponge, and I pack it right over the top of the tuna. And then it's going to squeeze into the tuna, all the leftover into the tuna, which isn't much, a couple drops. The rest of it will go right into that meat and be ready. I will take this and dunk it back into the oil, just like this. Man, those salmon are getting a snack today. And that's how you go ahead and make a tuna snack for the fish. And I'll tell you what, we caught a lot of kings on this, and this is a great way to go about baiting for the kings. And make sure on the super bait you have your leader. Don't let it crawl outside like this, because it won't run right. You have to make it spin right. You leave the leader on the bottom, just like that. Make sure you shove it back into the trap, pull the leader tight. And that's it. That's all there is to baiting with tuna fish. Hello, I'm Don Talbot. We're going to be fishing with sardines that are old and frozen out of the freezer, and they look like they're not worth anything, but there's a lot of oil in a sardine. And even though this one looks horrible, when I cut this open, you're going to find that the meat is probably still good in there. And I just start chunking it up. Now what we're using this in is the super bait, and this is how you chunk it up for the super bait. You just chunk it into real small pieces like this, and go all the way up, and it'll fall apart. And that's what sardines do. They fall apart on everything. So it's not gonna fall apart inside the super bait like it will on a plug. And so you can use this old stuff and get away with it. When I'm done with the head and the tail, I discard those off to the side. All up as much of a mesh as I can. Just because it has a little freezer burn doesn't mean the meat's not good inside. And I'll use this trolling for lake trout or for kings if I have some kings in the water. But I'll use this concoction here. It works very good because it retains a lot of oil. Scrape it right off into my Tupperware container or that type of a container. And I won't mix it with oil. I'll leave my oil right over here in another container, whether it be Procure oil, any type of fish oils, whether it be sardine oil, whether it be, there's a ton of different fish oils. You can have the sponge resting right there in the oil, just like that. It's all saturated in there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead. This is a customized super bait. We actually rebuilt the leaders on it for our own purposes. You take this sponge out and you go ahead and you put it right in here and you soak it right up, and then you take the meat and you just start packing the meat into the super bait. Just like that. So don't throw out your old fish. The old fish still has good meat in it if it's been frozen. Then I'll take the old sponge, take it out, and lay it on top of the meat. Ooh, look at that ooze out, just like that. Ooh, that looks good. I'll put my surgical tubing retainer on in the back, and there you go. You got a sardine meal ready for the Kings or the Lakers or whatever fish you're trying to go after. It's terrific.